Oh, he sent. Blah.
Did it work?
Amazing. Yeah, it
Okay,
says
great.
stream marker / marker Elden Ring. Fantastic.
Great.
Whoa.
Then you can
Hi.
do this and see what you're actually doing.
Ah, goodness. I'm sorry in advance for all the coughing that I'm going to be doing.
I'm peeking in. I'm not at the main event anymore.
No, he's
I'm
not.
just over here.
He's not. This is a very nice thing that he's doing for me under the guise of me letting him take a break from stream. I am hosting my little show of things that I like that no one else cares about. But hey, I appreciate it.
Realized why my headphones I couldn't. There's a volume on the headphone.
We are.
I can boost. Okay, I'm so fine.
Incredible headphone discoveries. Wow. See, the break was great. New tech is being found. So hey, hello. This is the little Elden Ring lore incentive. As you can see, my Elden Ring soliloquy. Let's just get into it, because whatever, who cares? If anyone is here, hello. Last time I was here talking about Elden Ring, I posited that I think the Radagon is Marika situation means Radagon is just a guy that came in and took over and stole Marika's place and a body.
This is the previously.
This is the previously. Yes, this is the previous episode summary. Stole her place and her body first, metaphorically, as in spoke in her place in public, but then also literally, because this is a FromSoft game. So I think you take, the metaphorical and you make it into ultra literal. The game opens with this image that you can see here, telling you the fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. Now Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. This is what you're told. Very first thing you're told is that, whoops, someone shattered the ring. Whoops, we don't know where the queen is. You're very quickly informed that he's the one who broke the ring, and Radagon, her husband, he's so nice. He's so nice and he's trying to fix it. Now, when I last talked about it, I didn't really have an amount of proof, or at least in game, I hadn't really looked through enough to be able to say with certainty that he's the one who broke the ring, or at the very least that the events are a little off. But now I do, so get fucking ready. But also, generally speaking, I think the pacing of a story, they immediately tell you this. And I think that's a bit suspicious. That you're just told that this is definitely the truth. Guys, believe us. And then the game spends the rest of the time hammering it in. Haha, hammering. It'll be funny in a minute. That, she's totally guilty. She's Marika, she's totally the one who did it. She's so suspicious. Which, in itself, I think is a bit suspicious. Because you don't need to convince me that hard, right? So, you're immediately told by the finger reader Enya, immediately, you defeat the first boss, and the first thing you're told by the official religious authorities is that Queen Marika is the vessel of the Elden Ring, carrier of its vision, a god in truth. But after the Elden Ring shattering, she was imprisoned in the Erd Tree, a grim punishment for shattering the order despite her godhood. Even if you wanted to take this as ambiguous, it absolutely isn't. It's definitely saying that she's the one who did it. They're totally reiterating it. And finally, at the end of the game, when you get the hammer, it, without a doubt, spells out this fact. Stone hammer made in the lens of the Numen, outside the lens between. The tool with which Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring and Radagon attempted to repair it. The hammer partially broke upon shattering the ring, becoming splintered with rune fragments. So over and over and over and over, this game tells you, she did it, she's a criminal, and she's evil, totally. This is even after you've already beaten the game, because you have to have beaten the game to be given this item. Isn't that a little weird? Isn't that a little suspicious? Also, just while I'm here, pointing out the fact that the skill is called Gold Breaker, and it's the heroic Radagon signature attack. You're raised some eyebrows.
Gold Breaker?
It's called Gold Breaker.
Like the gold of the Golden Order?
I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm saying. It's just Gold Breaker, and the animation is Radagon jumping in the air and then smashing the hammer into the ground, creating golden cracks all over. Again, doesn't seem like a repairing thing to me, but the fact that this is described as the heroic Radagon tells me this is a slightly biased description. So, but with that in mind, let's look back to both the intro of the game, but also a long time ago, in 2019, I believe, there was a teaser trailer that was released. And this teaser trailer showed alternating images of Radagon hammering something and Marika just kind of standing there but holding the same hammer. And as Radagon hammers, there's cracks breaking on his back. Now, at first you think, who knows what's happening? And then the game finally comes out and you're immediately told that he's totally fixing it. But, hear me out. Hammer partially broke upon shattering the ring, which is something that happened first. But, this fucking hammer looks fine to me. This fucking hammer, this hammer looks fine to me. And yet, allegedly, the hammer was completely, all these weird splinters through it. Oh, it's totally Marika's fault. She did it. When I got to the hammer, me, the heroic Radagon, it was fine. It was intact and nothing happened. I think someone is lying. I think someone's a little lying bitch. However, he's doing something. I don't think the clip itself is a lie. I think he is hammering something, but I don't think he's trying to repair the ring. I also don't necessarily think this scene might be him breaking it. But, hear me out. In the end of the game, when you see Marika for the very first time, she's hung up on what seems to be a rune fragment. You then see her fall down and transform into Radagon, so you're like, oh, that was Radagon all along. Now,
which I think that might already be a slightly controversial statement.
It might be.
But that is basically what I said the second I saw that.
It's, I think...
as a person that's not that deep
yeah,
into it.
It's a 50-50 because, well, that's what the general belief is. It's just that I think a lot of people also think that they were the same person the entire time. Like, they take the Radagon is Marika extremely literally. I think by the end, he has either taken... I don't think he has taken over her body, because I will go over it later. I think at the very end, you're faced with a headless body of Marika that I do believe is the actual woman herself. Because that's the first time you actually see Marika, is when you see her headless body. But I think he has taken a form very convincingly. And I will also pause it.
Should I bring this back to Dune for a second?
You can,
as always?
please. I'm begging you.
So in the later Dune books, there is a type of, I guess, creature that is created. There's these genetic freak people that make genetic freaks.
Yeah, just
Such
like in
as-
this game also has a lot of that.
Yeah, and they make stuff like a chair that is also a dog.
Sick.
It's just like, it's one of those things that's sad because it's whimsical and strange and messed
right,
up,
right.
but like it's just they don't elaborate much, I don't think, on that one.
Of course.
But there is a type of person that I believe came from that somehow, that are called face dancers.
Ooh.
And they are just like basically shapeshifters.
Oh, you know what?
They take
Game
people's
of Thrones
faces.
has that exact concept too, and I can't remember what they're called in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But there's the same concept of Arya Stark is the youngest girl of the Stark family. She gets trained by someone who teaches her to change her looks and her face, but it's like a kind of a spell, but not really. It's like a trickery. You're never told. I don't think.
It's like Dune also has the weirding way at some point, which is like
Ooh.
you trick someone so hard into thinking that you teleported that you kind of did teleport.
That's so fucking. That's fucking fun.
That's the insane way of saying it.
That
but
rule.
It's
No,
like,
no, it's fine. I kind of get it.
It's like you manipulate the perception of
right.
reality so hard that it
Right.
essentially teleport.
Yeah, that's sick. But hey, since that reminds me, right?
But this
Game
is
of
all,
Thrones is the same thing, and
the
this
thing
is
Dune
written
really
by
just has.
George R. R. Martin, just to really rub it in.
I've been on this train.
Mm-hmm.
Every single piece of fantasy and science fiction since
Yeah.
Dune has taken something from Dune.
It has. I think,
or
anyone...
taken something from something that has taken it
taken
from
from
Dune. Like
Dune.
everything that copies Star Wars. Star Wars, I now know, came from a scrapped Dune film that
That's
didn't
funny.
happen.
Yeah.
Almost all of the basis of that was Jodorowsky's Dune. There's a famous documentary about that attempt to make it. He didn't care about the book. He wanted to make a space Jesus story.
Yeah.
And it got so bloated and overdone and canceled. But then all the concept art and things got passed around studios, and Star Wars is a sand planet with multiple moons and space Jesus. And
it is. And it doesn't really...
And Star Wars has impacted a lot of pop culture, so indirectly it's another thing. It's just one of those things that it's like the second you look into it, it's like, oh, everything
and
is
that's
this.
kind of also why...
And George R. R. Martin obviously likes
these light
Frank
sci-fi stories, because this is like sci-fi. Ultimately,
it's got aliens and...
It has alien... The Elden Beast comes from space. Ultimately, it's a... It's very oddly one-to-one to the world, if in this world gods not only were real, but there was like multiple gods.
And they're like a species, right?
Gods just being like more powerful entities beyond the human comprehension, and they are called something. There is a term to define all of them, the outer gods, because they're landing from space or from places that are not... They're not assumed to be born on the planet.
Also, I saw a post recently that said if you're reading fantasy and having a good time, you might just actually secretly be reading sci-fi.
So true.
Which every fantasy story I like is secretly just sci-fi.
So true. I do love sci-fi, and it's so true. And this ultimately is like, well, we'll see exactly how sci-fi. Right now, likely. But it might be much more.
Anyway, that was my Dune aside. I didn't
That's
mean to
okay.
take you
There might be
away.
more Dune asides later, but I do think, yes.
But I know George R. R. Martin has written a lot of space stories, and a lot of it's inspired by
I
Frank
need to
Herbert.
read his vampire book, because I know Miyazaki told him it's his favorite, and so I have a feeling that
Is he the one that did the Confederate vampire story?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
the ones on the
that's
steamboat.
like a famous thing.
Or whatever. Maybe there's
famous,
multiple, but...
genre that spawned at
Fucking
some point
sick.
of like all of the Confederates in the Civil War are vampires.
I see.
There's like
in
a
this
ton
case,
of
there's
books
like a
that do that.
steamboat or something, and the vampires are on
Sure,
it.
it's down south.
Yeah.
America
So I'm intrigued, because I feel like if you're immediately told that upon meeting someone, that influences what you're writing. But I'll get back to the Elden Ring.
Anyway, that's the
when I read
literary
that.
corner.
Yes.
Back to what you
back
were
to
actually
this,
saying.
which definitely, absolutely. I know this is contentious apparently these days, but George R. R. Martin wrote the entirety of this backstory. The way it's being shown was not his choice.
Yeah, so he wrote the prehistory of the game. Essentially.
He wrote the mythos. He wrote he has all these gods. He has all this religion, what these people believe in. There's these religions, these people existing in this world. It's not...
He wrote the events up to the beginning of the game, basically.
He kind of... I feel like it's like taking a snapshot of what the world looked like up until everything went to shit. And then it's not like he had a hard stop. Like, he wasn't told, okay, you have to write, what is the damn word I want? Chronological story from this year to this year. He just had, like, a bunch of, presumably, documents about, this religious group exists. These people exist. And then these people are the children of I think a lot of fans want it to be a super clear cut. Yes, he only wrote up to here, because then you don't have to try to interpret under the lens of the way he writes. And then they can be like, oh, beyond here, it's just Miyazaki. And I know Miyazaki, so it's easier for me to understand this.
Yeah, I'm sure he wrote some in-game event stuff too, probably, and they just pick and choose what they include
must
and
have,
what they didn't
but
want
I
to.
think having just, I don't know, anyone that's done anything cooperatively, you can understand the idea of someone coming up with the concept of a world, and then you come up with like a little interaction, but that interaction is informed by the concept of the world. So
it just depends how involved he was over time, I guess.
Yeah, you put something in. But I think it's also just a story.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
just a story. I don't think it needs to be that complicated that you need to know who wrote it to figure out
It ain't that deep,
the story.
bro.
It can be, but I think it can be like a really convoluted story. But I think the way a story is told and written is not that complicated.
You want to know why I brought up Dune? Because I have a book of it right in front of me.
He is standing
and
right
I
over
can't-
it. But
It's all I'm looking at right now because it's right in front of me.
returning to this guy, smithing something. What's he doing? I can't control this mouse. I would love to do like a proper circle, but he's smithing something, and this is not lying to me. I don't think he's trying to fix the ring. I don't actually think at any point he did what would be considered trying to repair the Elden Ring beyond the trying to shape it to what he desires. But Marika, she's hung on a big rune and she has a big spear going through her. And I have taken a screenshot in game through absolutely totally legitimate means of the hanging Marika from her side, and I have slightly highlighted where the spear goes through just for visibility. But this is, this is just a side view of the crucified Marika specifically. This spear looks weird. No one can figure out what it is.
When you say crucified
Yes.
Marika,
Yes.
the one that turns into the guy or no?
The one that turns into Radagon.
Okay.
Now, that's the difficult part, is that distinction. Because I could just call her Radagon, but I think that's a bit confusing. So I'm gonna try my best to make it clear which
This
one it is. This one has long hair.
Marigan.
This one has long hair. And the one that's the real one does not have any hair left. The bald, wig snatched, actual dusty ass Marika on the floor, and the flowing, luscious locks Radagon Marika.
Let's call this one Mimica.
That confuses things because mimics are a thing
I
in this
know.
game, unfortunately. But that's pretty good. I think that would have been.
Marigold. Because it sounds better than Maragon.
Let's see, Radica.
Yeah,
'Cause
radical.
He is not that. He is radicalized. Not really either. Anyway. Anyway, hey, this spear has been driving people crazy. No one can figure out what it is. The best theory has been put forth by hit YouTuber Tarnished Archaeologist, who agree with him or not, occasionally disagree, but generally just brilliant approach to looking at things. Just like a really weird little actual like video game archaeologist. Very cute. I like it. It's fun if nothing else. So he posits that this might be the Rune of Death, or at least a fragment of it used to impale her. Now, sure, could be. What the hell do I know? I do. He also says it goes through her womb, which it doesn't. The womb isn't quite there, but through this helpful cross view, I was then able to overlap it with a cross view of the shattered, wig snatched Marika.
May I say the obvious thing before
please,
we
go ahead.
continue, which is visually a big red spear in the side of a pale, ghostly figure. Up culturally speaking.
Yes.
End of Evangelion
Yes.
has Adam on the cross with the lance of Longinus
yeah.
through the side like that exact
Yeah,
spot.
that was also a thing
Which
that
is
was
also a
mentioned.
biblical
Very Jesus, yeah.
thing, but
it's a very Jesus, and I think that's a red
Specifically,
herring.
the red through the white
Yes.
body is very Evangelion.
Absolutely, and I think that's a red herring. I think that is meant to look like that, and you're meant to think that and go, oh, it's a Jesus thing. It's a spear of Longinus. Easy connection to make, so completely fair. And I think it wants you to stop thinking about it and move on.
I'm
But-
just saying visually.
No, yeah,
it's
you're right.
Like, to me, that's
You're
what it,
right.
it just brings to mind is the Evangelion.
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
specifically.
I'm agreeing. I'm saying that I think they know.
Yeah.
And I think it's purposely done that way. So you just kind of move on and stop
Well, it
thinking
can
about
also
it.
just be the visual reference and
Yeah. But
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you then, which is a thing you can't do because these you never see. You see Marika for like 2 seconds in the game. You interact with her and it's the ending cutscene, so you don't get the time to think about it. But
the one that we know is the real one.
the one that's the real one, I'll just start like fake Marika. Okay, this is fake Marika. Fake Marika is being displayed as a bit of a as a bit of a trophy almost. Like you go in and Radagon, fake Marika Radagon is hanging up, presumably assuming that her ex-husband Godfrey was gonna come in. And so he's like kind of also playing dead. He's like, oh, haha, I'm totally your dead ex-wife. Don't beat me up. But then realizes it's a stupid tarnish that comes down to beat the shit out of you. But hear me out. This is overlapping it and trying the best I could to line it up with the... Let me just go back and forth once or twice just to see. So this is fake Marika with the long hair, real Marika with no hair. And you can see I overlapped it as much as I could. The posture is a bit different, but you can see the Elden ring inside of her starting to form again. And it goes kind of through the base of it. Like at the very bottom of it, I grabbed a tilted one here so you can see a bit better. If you speared it right through here, it would hit perfectly to snap off the bottom the bottom arc. So this thing would just hit it. And if you think about it, if you think about glass and like in cars, you would think a hammer would do a really good job of breaking glass, but what does an even better job is a spark plug.
Porcelain.
Yes, just the smallest crumb of porcelain, because it perfectly hits the break point and it shatters it. Which shatter it does. This illustration here is in the teaser. When the Elden ring gets broken, you can see all you see break is actually just one really wide arc, which suspiciously looks like the bottom arc of it, and it shatters completely. You actually see over here, I couldn't put a gif here, but over here, if you watch it again, there's like two bits that go true and they shoot off like in the distance, kind of like something got impaled through. I'm gesturing, you can't see, but I'm making some really wild stabbing gestures.
You're positing that a hammer would break it into bigger pieces.
A hammer would.
Versus a point will shatter.
Yes, a point would shatter it. A hammer would break all of it in big chunks and it would just kind of fall apart. But we're shown really thorough... It's called the Shattering. It's a really thorough shatter. We have I've seen
those people in San Francisco that just have... There's like...
Yes. You can get the spark plug of the car and just break it, right?
The big thing in San Francisco at the moment that I've seen some documentary stuff about, there's like, what do you call them? Like the discount stores.
Yeah.
Because they have like the incense holders and stuff. They sell to the kids just like the little incense bowls that they can just shatter and just fling through a window.
That's so fun. I love crimes.
It's so interesting.
We're learning so much
The new tech in the car break-in world in San Francisco is crazy.
Well then, there you go. We've learned so much. And I think that same tactic has been employed right here. Yeah. I think we have a very pointy item going through a very delicate spot. And, shattering it seems like a thing that would happen. Now,
also, I hate to bring up the one media example I have in my vocabulary. No. The Incredibles.
Oh my fucking god, it's always The Incredibles,
where
yes?
The only thing that could pierce the robot was the robot.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair.
And if this is like the rune is so strong that you can't simply break it, and the only thing that could pierce it is another type of rune or something similar.
Now, that's the thing that I was like, gonna kind of... That's what I'm gonna try to get into, because I think also similar thing. I do think definitely the point hitting the like breaking spot is
field.
It's key, right? Because I think a hammer, just a random hammer, again, I'm told repeatedly that it's Marika's, but in the same way where like back in the day when there was a old woman that people didn't like, they'd be like, I've seen her pick herbs, I think she's a witch. And everything in this game about Marika's like, oh, she was so suspicious. She's totally related to the evil women that murdered this guy. And also she totally had the hammer that broke the Elden ring. Like that kind of thing. So I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh, well, retroactively excusing. Like, oh, we found this cat skull at this old woman's house. She was totally a witch. It's fine that we killed her. So, But yeah, if she dies when you spear her, then, well, it means that she wasn't a witch, but maybe she was.
Well, it's like
think about it.
Stoning thing. Where they would just put a big heavy rock on you.
Oh,
and they're
sick.
like, if it squishes you, you're innocent and you go to heaven.
Yay!
And if
thank
it
you.
doesn't, we kill you because you're a witch.
Oh, you're a witch.
It's one
yeah.
of the. It's like throwing in the river. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. That's the same vibe.
Yeah.
It's the same vibe. But, you know, so, you know, that was suspicious. But what I was going to point out, these two pictures that I put here. So this is it's a close-up of the spear. It's not very close-up because I couldn't really zoom in like a huge amount. I could make it a bit bigger, but I don't want to break. And this is the rune that she's hanging from. Now, if you have this is the actual Elden ring, and this is what she's hanging from, you can tell, this is a close-up of it, they're actually very different. But these two, the spear that she's speared with and the thing that she's hanging from, are very similar. They're both kind of fraying, almost. That's the best way I can describe it. Because at first, from a distance, it looks like it's burning up, but it's not moving. It's fraying in places. And this is shattering, but if you look up close, throughout the rune of the Elden Ring, there's this like little spiral. It almost looks like hairs woven through it. And there's like crystallized around it is what sparked open. Now, hair and weaving. Ooh, that's an important little theme that we're going to come back to shortly. But I do think that there's something to the fact that the spear here and the fake rune look like they are a lot of strings.
Like brush strokes. Like
yes.
Paintbrush strokes.
It looks like paintbrush strokes, or a lot of strings pulled taut that are like snapping. And it's almost like they got caught mid-snap, like in a picture. And so you can see them popping off and breaking. Or like a sweater that's fraying as you're ripping it. It's like layers on top of layers of woven threads and little fragments snipping off. And it's impossible to see in the actual game. Like I had to go in and stop and zoom, and it took forever. But point is, it's not a crystal, which is what the actual rune looks more like, but they clearly are both made of the same thing, which leads me to believe that those two were made by Radagon. So both the thing that she's hanging from and the spear, same material. He's hanging himself up there and let himself go whenever he wanted, so he must have at least made the rune, so he probably also made the other one. I think that's what he was smithing in the video that we witnessed at the start. In this video, I think he's smithing the spear. I think the Marika that we see in the video is either getting stabbed or about to get stabbed.
That would also kind of mirror Hugh's thing. If he wants to build the weapon to...
Oh, he does. And that part I've always wondered, because I think...
Kill a god.
Radagon,
right?
Radagon is the one who goes to Hugh, and Hugh is trapped in the Round Table Hold, yes.
Yeah.
He is being held hostage until he smiths a weapon to kill a god. And there is a god left. It's the Elden Beast. Mm-hmm. The Elden Beast is the one that ultimately clearly has the control of the ring. It only comes out once you kill Radagon, and the ring is kind of nowhere, because Marika's headless. Until you put Marika's head back on, the ring is not in her body, so it has to be something, I think, to do with that. When the ring is not in anyone, the Elden Beast comes back out to be like, gotta put this somewhere, hold on, and then you kill him then. And I think Radagon wanted a weapon to kill it. You can see a big crack on the Elden Beast's belly that I couldn't quite tell what it was supposed to be, but I wonder if Marika got stabbed in the belly. Well, the Elden Ring is.
Yeah.
He gets stabbed here, and round about here on the Elden Beast is where there's a big crack. Maybe that's related. Maybe if the Elden Beast is a representation of the ring, it's mirrored the damage that's done to it.
I also have another quick
sure,
hair-based aside.
Please go on.
Another biblical aside.
Please. We will go back to the hair too.
Samson and Delilah situation where the hair is the source of the strength.
Yes. Yes.
And Marika has no hair in his
Marika has no hair, but Radagon has a lot of hair.
Yeah.
What's up with that? That's so weird, right? Let's not worry too much about it yet.
Okay.
But ooh.
Put a pin in the Samson.
Put a
and
pin
Delilah
in that. Put a pin in that. Let's go back to, hey, last time we saw Marika, this is actually the very first thing you see of Marika in the game. In the intro, you're told that the Fallen Leaves tell a story, Elden Ring was shattered, Queen Marika gone. You immediately see this. This is also what all the statues look like in the game of Marika. So you assume, okay, this is just a picture of a painting of what Marika looked like. This is how she wanted to portray herself.
Is this her head is like down and her hair is covering it?
Yes, correct. Okay. You can't see her face. Yeah. In any depiction, like painting of Marika, you can't see her face. It's obscured.
Not the statues.
You can see it in the statues, but the statues are just, they're statues. So, you know, it's a bit, it's not very helpful. Now, the next image will have a lot going on, but I've looked at this and I've looked at the statues of Marika in the game, and I've compared them to the single other depiction of Marika in the game, which is the stakes of Marika, which are actually really different. And mentioning Tarnished Archaeologist again, that motherfucker did it again in his latest video. He pointed out something I'd missed, which is in the intro video, you actually for a second get a glimpse of a statue of Marika that actually is posed like the stakes of Marika. You only see the back for like a second in one single image, but it shows that they weren't only the small ones. They used to be, or at least somewhere in the world. There is also bigger ones, and let me just go to it right now to demonstrate. Lots of information here. Brand new discovery up here, by the way. I realized that the crown that she's wearing is the exact same design as the metal that's wrapping the soul seal and the scar seal. What does this mean? I don't know. But if anyone has any idea, please,
is it a crown
let's brainstorm it. It does seem to be a crown around her head.
I couldn't tell from I'm very far away right now.
No, that's fair.
I couldn't tell
I'm
if
sorry.
it was like a hair braid.
It like kind of, I think, is made to look like it is. I think it's meant to kind of
a tiara.
Yeah, it's like it blends in. You don't think much about it, but I think the train of thought that I have about this and where I landed is that the scar seal and the soul seals, the description talks about how the solemn duty of those chosen by the gods, it weighs on the person, I wish I copied the text. I'm such a dummy. I should have copied it. It's like a gnawing curse from which there is no escape. Like, it's the first item talks about how
you can look it up if you.
I could look it up, but it's okay. It's not. It's fine because I don't really have anything to follow that up with. Otherwise, it'll be here. But it's the first item is like, oh, you know, it's a solemn, important duty to be the vision of God, and then the second one is like, it's actually like so solemn that it's more like a curse. But there is one of Radagon and there's one of Marika. Now, Radagon being the Elden Lord / the consort, but there isn't one of Godfrey, makes me think that these were only created either by Radagon or during Radagon's time. So, before Radagon, these didn't exist. When he comes in, this would have been when this depiction of Marika was created. I think that puts like a timeline on it. Besides, we know he commissioned this statue. So I think the statue of Marika that looks identical in style and shape and is in the same places was probably made at the same time. So I'm positing that the design of this Marika statue that matches this illustration was created by Radagon. And
that's also supported by the fact that the guy that tells you the Radagon is Marika's secret. Yeah. He was the guy that made the statue.
Yes, the sculptor that found his secret and put it in the statue. And I think that the statue then, you do the spell and it turns into Marika's statue. So I think they were made at the same time. And I think they are actually meant to contain more hints than I previously realized, as I'm about to outline. I think the statue of Marika and Radagon, a very good propaganda in a very quiet way. Because you start with these two original depictions of Marika. This one that is from the intro, you only see for like a second. I just cropped it out. You can see that she's standing on the floor. In these both, she's just on the floor. And this one appears to be a root wrapping around her. You can see, especially over here, There's another statue of an old man in the game that has roots coming up around his feet, and he's holding like this blooming plant. I think in a way it's supposed to be like the golden odd tree is wrapping around them. It's approving of them. It's demonstrating that they are. It's iconography to show that they are
chosen.
Yes,
tree.
yes. They're not one with the tree because they're not part tree, but they are being wrapped by it gently. But it almost seems like this root, which I am slightly pushing it because I think it was drawn slightly lower just so it wouldn't impede the image. But I think the imagery of this root wrapping around the back of her is what got turned into the flowy dress. So you take this imagery that identifies her as the rightful goddess and turn it into just kidding, just a pretty dress. She just loves being beautiful, guys. Haha,
Is
don't
that what
worry.
that's meant to be behind her then?
Yes, it's
Or
fabric.
is this meant to be like a picture from like above?
This
what is this?
this is kind of, she is leaning forward a little. So she is hung. Imagine just Jesus on the cross seeing from the front. So you're seeing her kind of her
Yeah, but
butt.
then how's the dress above her head?
The dress is just, there's like a tail, you know, like
Yeah.
a dress, the tail of a dress, and it's just kind of mysteriously, weirdly
Just
floating.
draping around.
It just doesn't look right. I could pull up the actual statue, but
No,
it's
that's fine.
it's just this. It looks weird.
It's
It
like
doesn't
Kaiba's
look right.
jacket in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's always going up even though
Yeah,
there's no
kinda.
reason.
It doesn't look right. And now I'm thinking it doesn't look right because it's not meant to be a dress to begin with. It's meant to be like a tree root just kind of climbing in the back. But you're like, no, the actually it's just a beautiful dress, and the roots are just decoration. They're not even real. They wouldn't even touch this bitch. They're just painted on. She just likes flowers, okay? So this is delegitimizing her by taking away all the plant elements from her and turning them into decoration that's painted on. It's putting on her a crown that was, at the very least, associated with Radagon's interpretation of the religion. She starts off with a bunch of little braids. She's got these little bracelets. She's got this little crown around her head that are braided together. It's things that are interconnected, and the like braid is it's very thematically present in the game. The helix is very thematically present. So the fact that it's on her, you know, it's symbolic at least. But once you get to this statue, the bracelets on her wrist have been just split up across both her arms. They're just it's like a little single, cute little snaky thing around her arm. They don't touch at all. There's no overlap. The ones on her arm are just little jewelry woven, like just attached. There's no weaving left, weaving forbidden. The very little that's left around her neck, which almost seems like it could be the one that was on her head, is being pulled apart. It's tied together loosely, while the ones that she had before are like a continuous loop, but it's just like being pulled apart and there's extra threads falling off of it. It's just like it's just a cute little decoration, guys. Don't worry about it. There's nothing sacred about this woman. It's fine. On top of that, her hair that used to be like extremely long, and you can see it swooping from the back in both. It's a single big braid, has been broken. It's almost like someone grabbed this and yanked it out, because you can see it falling out from the side here. So she still gets to have her braid, but it's not, it's fractured. It's a fractured braid, and you know, if she was legitimate, the iconography would show it as a single braid, and it doesn't. So again, this is just a big series of little pot shots that one on top of the other are just delegitimizing her and taking away all the things that are sacred imagery. It's like the Virgin Mary has a specific shade of blue used to represent her, and it's like
a little cowl thing.
There's a lot of little things like that, right? But it's like you took a painting and then painted over all the blue and just changed the color. It may still be the same painting, but you're like, She's not.
Like that restored Jesus painting that
We
lady
don't-
did.
But yes, that one was
That's
not.
what this is?
That was the accidental version of it. This is very purposeful, but yes, essentially, you're taking a sacred thing and being like, nah. You just kind of like. I think this is genuinely like someone coming in and be like, either the statues were already there and they did the thing that the Romans used to do, where they just like think on top of it to just change it to whatever they wanted.
Which the Egyptians also did.
Yeah, they
Which
did do
we
that.
learned at the
That's true.
Ramses vlog.
We
Go
really
watch it.
did learn at the Ramses
They
vlog.
like would just change the face of a big statue to
Yeah.
the current pharaoh and be like,
Yeah.
we made this for you actually.
I know. And they would be like, even if they lost, they'd be like, yeah, but we were so epic. Basically, we won emotionally. And that's also a thing that happens a lot here. There's a lot of like, oh, Radagon's so epic in this battle. And there's a battle that historically was lost, but it still says he's so epic. Marika just kind of isn't mentioned. If she is, she's mentioned negatively about like, ooh, this guy that she was married to did a genocide. Ooh, not so good, guys. Like, you know, there's either a modification or those were destroyed and replaced with something very similar, but that takes out all of the holy elements. Rome actually did do that. There's a called Damnatio Memoriae is what it's called, I think. It's not that you used to tear down statues of previous rulers. You'd leave them up, but you would just deface them. You'd be like, this fucking guy sucks. You just, if you wanted people to not...
Just make his eyes look different directions.
Yeah. You just clink
Give
his
him a
nose off
tooth
and be like,
gap.
look at this dickhead. We don't like him.
Is
You
that what
want
happened to the
like,
Sphinx?
Maybe.
He got his nose taken off by the next Sphinx?
Maybe.
Oh no.
Who knows? I mean, it seems very specific that it's just a nose. But yeah, a lot of it was that they didn't want people to forget them, because if you erase everything about them, people can still remember like nice rumors. You want them to be very visible and very embarrassing. So that was a very common thing, and I think this is similar. If you go to the Radagon statues, on the other hand, motherfucker, straight back.
T-pose.
T-pose, straight back. Marika's quite hunched, but he's standing up. And first thing immediately...
She's like a pitiful
Yes,
pose.
so she's like cute, her beautiful little dress. She's so sad, guys. She's a bit tired. Don't worry. She's not looking up, but she's just a bit tired. Also, you can't see it in this picture, but she's floating. You can see her foot very clearly lifted up
Because she's
midair.
hanging, right.
She's hanging, but also she's not touching the ground like she was before, which grounds her and puts her in contact with
Gives
the tree.
her roots.
Yeah. It's like purposely taking her far away from the tree, so she couldn't even touch it if she wanted
So
to.
if she gets hit by lightning, it's over.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, guys, so scary. It's also like, it's almost like saying, see, she thinks she's above all of you. You know, as the person asking for the statue to be made, if you want her to look bad, you take her away from the common people. You take her off of the floor. You give her a beautiful golden and blue and gold dress, which is...
It's not very humble.
Yeah, exactly. So you're taking all those away, but you are the fucking T-posing king of the land over here. He has a crown on him that is not the same crown that Marika has, which he has a symbol like this that also has it. You would think if this burden of reigning over the land was a shared one, he would also have it, but what he has is what is explicitly described in the game as being the crown of Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. It's, yes, the crown of the Elden Lord, but it's not a generic, oh yeah, we give this to everybody. It's specifically seen as his, and he's the only one who's seen with it. It's very visually like linked, so you're taking this, you're legitimizing yourself. You're saying,
As
I'm
Elden
the...
Lord.
Also, remember this?
So he's not the Elden Lord, but he has the crown
He
of the Elden Lord.
is technically the Elden
consort,
Lord.
right?
They're kind of the same thing, but this is
But
his
Queen's
crown.
consort is a title given by being with someone as opposed to owning.
It's also,
Also.
there is something to point out that he is not called the Elden Lord very often. He is called the King's Consort in most...
King consort?
King, is it
Queen
not?
consort,
Queen
right?
consort, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. The gay agenda is making its way into my stream. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. He is the consort, technically that makes him the Elden Lord, but there's very few item descriptions that refer to him as such, and the majority of characters, including, I believe, the Two Fingers through Enya, just refer to him as the consort. So there's like a...
That's what I mean.
He's
Like,
not,
he's giving himself the crown as if he owned it, but he just...
Yeah, no one really
He married into the
He married
royal
in,
family.
and that technically makes him that, but
He didn't do anything
both
to own
when
it.
both terms are true, what people choose to call you is very important. So it's like calling, Obama's wife. She is, but if you call her Obama's wife, it's a bit disrespectful. You're trying to be disrespectful.
But if you call her Barack's wife,
it's also
that's 'cause
disrespectful.
You're homies.
But yeah.
If you call her Barry's wife, you went to university in Hawaii in 1975
That's
or
fair.
whatever.
But if you go Michelle Obama and her husband, then that's like poggers. You're saying something.
It's like those articles that came out for a minute that was like Amal Clooney and
That's
her husband.
right. That's absolutely right.
In Lake Como or whatever.
That's right. And you still see that too, like very pointedly, Amal's husband. And it's funny, but it's true. It's very disrespectful to say one.
I mean, she's much more
or the other.
prolific than him at this point. He doesn't do
I'm
much.
just saying. He also
acting
thinks
at
she's
this
epic,
anymore.
and Italians love them. Just so you know, the Italians love the Clooney's.
Well, because he bigs up the coffee and he chose to live in Italy. That's all you gotta do.
Italians are so easy, man. But hey, similarly here, to be honest, this guy comes in, no one knows anything about him. He is called Red-Haired Radagon, very pointedly, a lot. And he's called the Queen Consort a lot. But let me double check. Let me just, sorry if I need to click on these a little bit. Nah, this even just calls him Radagon. The heroic Radagon is what he clearly called himself at least one time. But
Big boss boy Radagon.
God, big dick Radagon over here. The coolest guy ever possible in the
Crab the
world.
coolest.
Yes,
Over here.
do not sully his name like this. This guy is like, no, I'm the big dog. I have the same hat. See, guys, he totally would approve of me. Like, it's saying I totally earned this crown. And he has like these little bracelets are not quite the helix fully, but they're at least crossed over with each other. So there's still like a little bit of I'm a bit more legitimate than this woman. This on his waist, you can't tell, even the back yet. You can't really tell because it's a 3D model. Looking at the concept art, it's much more clearly meant to be braids. These are all braided. But it looks like waffles in the 3D models. It's a bit hard to
This
do.
is like a lattice with like a vine on it.
It does. It's so hard to do 3D models. But if you look closely, you can see that the braid on the back of his head actually continues into the one of these frosted things at the back, which I also initially described as a lattice. Thinking about it now, it also looks like woven textile. It can also be, it is what lattice
Like a
looks like.
loom.
But it does also, yes. He is kind of doing a loom.
With his head.
Yeah. And this is woven, which we'll get back to. But he does have, the slide is a bit later, but we'll get to it. He does, into his previous marriage, bring sewing tools. The golden sewing kit is from him. So you're like, okay, intriguing. Which is why I went to weaving and sewing immediately with this. After realizing that his hair is attached to it. And at the back you can see that they stab through the roots. There's like roots around his legs. I couldn't fit all the things that I would have liked to as references, but his legs are being wrapped by... Actually, maybe I can add the image just to demonstrate, but his legs are being wrapped by the roots of the tree, but also, oh, spoilers, don't look. Close your eyes. From the front, good lord, Google, it's not that big. Google Jamboard in shambles. No wonder it's on its way out. Okay, thank you. From the back, you can kind of see these roots going into his pants / dress. You can see that dogs are out, but also sneaky. And I wonder if this is part of the thing from the sculptor, but sneaky, you can see that he's also kind of slightly, he's not like standing on the ground. He's floating off of it a little bit, but that feels like either he wanted to ultimately put it in there. You can't see from the front that he's not just standing on the floor, but dogs out. The roots are becoming one with his clothes. So he is claiming even more so than any statue of Marika ever has that he is one with the Earth tree because he's becoming it. And his weird hair thingy is stabbing into the roots as well. So he's weaving himself into the fabric of the Earth tree. This is like the most, honestly, it's such an aggressive, bold, there's a word that escapes me, but it's like conceited. Mm-hmm. It's a very conceited statue if you look at the imagery compared to this, the equivalent of this previously having been this one. What the fuck is
especially the like lower open arms, they're like inviting.
Yeah. She's just like, hey y'all, come on.
Scott here.
And the history, a bunch of item description tell you that the blessings of the Earth tree used to be hand delivered by Marika herself. So she used to take the sap, the blessed sap of the tree and give it to people directly. He was very, it's like the Jesus thing of like he was among the people, except if Jesus then had a sequel who was like, actually, I'm fucking sick and way above all of you. So maybe I missed it.
Jesus too.
Maybe I missed Jesus too. But
Peggle 2 voice.
Hey. Peggle 2. Yeah. So, you go from this. You go from I'm on the floor. These roots are just kind of gently touching me. Haha. I guess they approve of me. But my first concern is you people. To T posing as I'm so epic that I'm basically the tree. Please think I'm cool. Please, please. So, okay, that's fucking annoying. He's also, if you look at what his
that's another
symbol
Arrested
looks
Development
like.
Joke.
Which one?
Solid as a rock.
I don't remember that.
And then it sounds like Iraq was the half of the joke.
Of course. That's fair. What a good show. Next time I do a presentation, I'll do the millennia equivalents to Buster, but that's for another time. But there's a lot.
Buster Bluth
and Melania, the same character. Catch you next stream. Now we have this motherfucker that also seems to be positing himself as like the center of this is what is defined as a symbol. Appears to be a sigil, is what the item says, and he's at the anchor. He's the center of it, and he's like, no, I'm so epic, so epic. Again, same shit over and over. But hear me out. What the fuck is up with the hair? I got stuck on that because that was really odd that the hair, he's already blending into it with his dress and everything. So you're like, what's up with the hair? And then I was also really stuck on Marika being half bald all of a sudden because you suddenly see her with like half her hair off just in the original illustration. So I'm like, what's up with that? Like, you even see here, if you compare this is Radagon pretending to be her and he's got luscious locks. But then you get to her, actually, she's fucking just being snatched. So, I don't know. I think I thought that was a bit odd. And Radagon, on the other hand, when you look at him comparing the intro video, and also, I also grabbed a piece of concept art here. This is this is from the second, I believe, art book. This is from the teaser trailer from 2019, and this is actually him in game. There's various states of mess. You know, there's always a long hair, but so it's not quite like Marika's sudden disappearance of hair, but we go from what is ultimately pretty tidy ponytail to what the goddamn hell is happening. Given Boba, they absolutely definitely thought the Evangelion imagery looked cool. I'm also simply saying congratulations. If they didn't mean to do this, they did it by accident. So that's really funny. If they did, that's reasonable. But if they didn't...
Well, the big stick thing
The big stick thing is absolutely... I'm not even saying that it's not. I think it is. I also think that then you on top of that can go...
Yes,
But also it happens to have pierced her exactly
I agree that
through
they
a
had a
spot,
thing
right?
they wanted to communicate, and then they were like,
Yes.
we can also do the visual
Yes.
reference to
Which
the
is-
thing we like.
I think it's very, because I think that a lot of theories that refer to like mythos end up missing is the pulling it back to, but why? So it's like, okay, yes, it's a reference to Evangelion, but why? And it's like, because as it happens, if you make it the same, it also goes through, we put the rune exactly there, so it happens to also go through it. So we got the two together. Without that, it's like, why? And it's like, I don't know, cause I say maybe, but it's such a weird thing all of a sudden. It's such a big element of it. If it's a random pebble on the street, it's one thing, but when it's like this big core imagery, you're like, okay, well, that's an interesting spot to do something just because, right? So it follows the rest. So hopefully I have the right idea, and if I don't, I'll eat shit. But it's fine. I think I'm right all the time. So this guy, unlike Marika, long flowing locks. However, going from this, like, you know, it's a ponytail, it's a braid. All right, there's a lot of hair ties on it. There's a lot of hair ties on it. You can see it in the concept art. I wasn't sure if this was one, but I think it is because this has the other one is the same amount. And you can see he's got like a bunch of hair ties through it. And you can actually see in the concept art some like bits of golden glow that it's really easy to dismiss. And I didn't even notice them the first time because it's nothing, right? It's very prominent, but you go, whatever, it's a sketch. Messy. But in the current iteration, as you meet him at the very end, there is strands of hair that just have blonde patches that kind of get like jammed into this braid is a fucking disaster. If you look at it a bit up close, you can see there's like, first it starts with like 2 big strands, and then it becomes 3, 4, 5, 6 strands just kind of splitting apart and then being yanked back in and just jammed in and tied up again, and it almost looks like the hair grew over where the hair ties were because there's these lumps all over the place. There's just these gross big lumps, and it tries to jut out and go back in. And what it actually looks a lot like is if you look at regrafting. Whoa, that's a fucking fun theme that is at the start of the game and never comes back. What if it does? Grafting is a thing you're shown at the start of the game, where the first dickhead boss that you meet is actually not very strong, but he grafts arms and legs onto himself and makes himself look bigger and stronger.
A dragon head.
And then also a dragon head on his arm, because the more you attach to yourself, it becomes, you see when he shoves his hand into the dragon head comes to life. You also see this in the same teaser, actually. In fact, it's interspersed between Radagon hammers down something, and then you cut to Godric the Grafted having a hand put onto his arm, and then you see the fingers kind of start moving. So it comes to life, and then it cuts back to Radagon hammering again. So I'm like, okay, intriguing. And you see this back shot of his back. Word it carefully. And you see the shot of his back. When you graft trees, there's a lot of ways to do that.
Also
One
about
of them,
the Godric thing.
Go on.
This tracks where Godric had the corpses tied up in bags in the castle because they're technically alive if the grafted
right.
part stays alive or whatever.
Something like that. And Marika is definitely not completely dead. Her head is off. When you put the head back on, the body lights back up. Then it dies because now death is back, and it's a long story, but now it can die properly. But until you put the head back on, it doesn't.
But if he's keeping the pieces of her alive on him, then the body would still be like technically alive.
It's not possible for it to die necessarily because it's not him. In fact, to quote Marika herself, Radagon, Leal Hound of the Golden Order, you have yet to become me, you have yet to become a god. Let us both be shattered, mine other half, I believe is the quote. I read it 1,000 times, but I'm still not sure. But it's, you know, there's a point where there's a quote, you don't see the context of any of these quotes. that you get given of Marika. You're given a half a dozen sentences that you're told are said by Marika, and I think some
From what's her name?
Melina.
Yeah.
Melina's your maiden. She just is like, spoken echoes of Marika linger here. So she tells you there's like a vague vision of a memory of Marika having been there and having said something. But what if sometimes it was Radagon posing as her? What if Radagon stole her hair, slowly took all her hair and put it into his hair so that it would grow into his own, and then he would become Marika by grafting bits of her onto himself? I was gonna say with the tree grafting, you just kind of cut a slit into the tree, shove a branch into it, and then you tape around it, which is what the hair ties would be. You're just taping around the hair and keeping it in place. But
it's like a hair extension.
Kind of.
Just clip it into your
and
hair.
Then if it could
if you
then
brush it in, then
if it grew,
integrates.
and if it could, in this case, it's shown with the arms and legs with the other guy.
Yeah.
It just becomes part of you. But if a tree graft is rejected because it's incompatible, it grows this gross big knot. I didn't want to put pictures because I know it's just trees, but it looks gross. And I don't like looking at it. But it grows this big lump because the two bits are like not compatible. And it starts growing sideways. It's when it'll form like a corner and then it'll grow off to the side, which looks suspiciously like this, by the way. And another thing that happens is that a lot of little offshoot branches will grow around the area, which would also be the same as all the hairs splitting off. Splitting hairs, am I right?
This also goes back to the Samson and Delilah thing of if the hair is some way
Yes.
a channel to power
In any
and he's
way.
putting it onto himself.
Yes, that's
cutting
right.
it off her and putting it on
That's
himself.
right. And you can also, if you then look at the front of him, you can see that there's this glow under his scalp, but nowhere else. The rest of his body is not. It's dead.
It's
but
hollow.
just the top of his head, you can see that this bit is glowing, and there's these little. Now it's really hard to tell.
So it's almost like the hair is growing root into his head would be
Yes,
the idea.
it's like he kind of wove it starting
Like a
from
tree
here.
root.
He started the hair roots, right?
Yeah.
Seems so stupid, obvious that I was like, there's no fucking way that they made a hair root, tree root joke. But I think if you're Japanese, it sounds cooler. So I think that might be the case. You can see there's these dark lines on his scalp, and you would be completely understandable to assume that it's like it's the shadow of the hair, but that is not. It's on the model. It's just a texture on the scalp. You can see these like dark tendrils coming out only on this side that's glowing from the center of his head, and you can see all these little scraggly, gross little blonde hairs that are really short and shitty, and they're just like new growth, but it's messy new growth. He just did a hair transplant, basically, and just shoved a bunch of them both into his head and onto his ponytail, thinking, okay, just give it a bit of time, they'll grow, and I'm gonna take all the power. And, apparently didn't really work. I would think after he got enough growth is when he tried to... You can see that the ponytail is quite long in the intro video. If this is when he tried stabbing the Elden Ring to kill Marika because he wants her out of the picture, that's when she would say, dumbass, you haven't even come close to becoming me. You may have my hair, but it's not. It's like a embarrassing pale imitation of me. So, on top of this, by the way, another thing that tipped me off that the hair might be relevant is the fact that this was the thing I mentioned earlier, the tailoring tools that are described as tailoring tools made from gold, tools brought with the red-haired Radagon when he married into the Carrion line. With these, even demigod attire can be altered at a site of grace. So he has magic tools that are the only thing that can be used to change the clothing of gods. And if you look at the needle that you're left with, it kind of looks like there's a strand of hair wrapped around it. It's got all these little bits falling off. Wow. Yeah, like it's being utilized, right?
That's
the
thread.
Yeah. It looks like you can assume
I wasn't
like
talking into the microphone.
he wasn't talking to the
I
microphone.
was writing something down.
Sorry. Yeah, he said that it's like it's being actively used as the thread. And if you look at other items that have thread, you can see it's very clearly just one bit of rope. But this has all these little strands coming off of it, and it's golden and it's glowing, and it's the only thing that can change god clothes. I think it's a fucking hair. I think it's a fucking hair. Maybe I'm crazy, but also would explain another really weird thing in the intro that no one likes to talk about because it's weird and it doesn't make any sense. In the very first shot of the trailer, you see the hammer that Radagon is using covered in hair. It's covered in these, it's glowing tendrils. It's fucking hair. Come on, be serious. This is just hairs. And you can see them waving. And it's like, what's up with that? That's so weird. But if you think about the hairs being the thing that brings the power, if you think about the fact that
the Elden Ring could have been woven from
it almost looks like it already is, and so the only thing that could damage
the
it,
golden hair, Marika's golden hair, that's another point to that being the source of some kind of
whether it's
power.
Because it
question.
Go ahead.
Maybe a silly question.
No, I don't know. Go ahead.
Is anyone else in this game blonde other than Marika and the children?
The single child, I should say, which by the way was his favorite. The only child that doesn't have red hair but has beautiful blonde locks is Radagon's favorite child.
Blonde people in the whole thing?
There's not gold. Like I think there's like
gold.
Yeah,
Yellow.
there's like gold hair is just the like Marika thing. I think there's like there's like a sad dusty blondes, but this is the one that the demigods have. They're obviously
the color of the Elden Ring. It's the color of the Elden Beast. It's the color of Marika. It's the color of the child.
The single child MIQUELLA, the mysterious single child that the DLC centers around, is the favorite of Radagon. And if you look at it, every single one of his children has red hair except for this one, and that's his favorite because he's like, yes, my trick worked. I managed to become enough of a god that my child has blonde hair, so I've defeated genetics. And that's his favorite, and it's gross. It sucks. It's such a like real thing. And also very Game of Thrones. If anyone is familiar with the series, the very beginning of it, Sean Bean, who has a name as a character, but it's fine, I can't remember, Ned Stark. That's
Tony
right, that's
Stark.
the one. He discovers that the Lannister siblings are fucking each other because he looks at the genealogy of all the children.
The Punnett square of the hair colors.
The what?
The Punnett square is how you like trot out genetic.
Oh, right. I think they just
like this gene, this gene, this
I
gene, this
see.
gene, and which ones would make. It's like that's like basic high school biology where it's
I think
talking
we've
about
done
like
that,
eye color,
like,
and you do like this parent has this, and then
that's
you
right.
find which one.
Right, I wasn't familiar with the name, but like the way he realizes it is he has all these, he's going through poring over these books, and he realizes that his friend married to Cersei Lannister has very dark hair, and yet despite that all her kids blonde blue eyes, blonde blue eyes, blonde blue eyes, and the only family that's blonde with blue eyes is hers. And she has a hot brother that's around a bit too much, and that's when he clicks, and that's why he gets killed. But I'm saying it's not the first time George R.R. Martin has made the hair color a very important plot point. Radagon is also described as hating his red hair, and there's an item that suggests, maybe the giants all have red hair, so maybe he just doesn't like it because it looks. I think he hates the red hair because it's not the golden hair. It shows so clearly that he's not the god that has the Elden Ring in him. Because he's just fucking red-haired as hell. So you see your child finally has weight. It's like having a child that finally picks up football that you wanted to do since you were a kid, but you couldn't. And you're like, yes, this is my favorite kid. And all the other ones can fuck off. Don't like them. You know, it's the same thing. That's why it's just nasty. Bad vibes all around. So I think this also solidifies it as being he's crafting the weapon with which to try to kill Marika, or at the very least shatter the ring, shatter her body, so that he's the one that has the hair of Marika, can take her form, can take the ring into himself, at least temporarily. There's a thing that I didn't fit in here, but yes, this is also why I was saying that, to go back a million years. This is why I was saying that this kind of looks woven with hairs, because I think he would have made it, at least in part, with his hair and her hair, to, because he doesn't have enough of hers. She's fucking running out, eh? Right. Yeah, she doesn't have that much left. He's been going back.
Could also be he's trying to graft it to his own head to get more.
Yes.
Because this is a silly pop cultural thing as well, but Tangled Rapunzel story, where once the hair is cut, it's not magic anymore.
Yeah, right.
And so if he's cutting it off to make things,
and
then suddenly this strand doesn't have any magic left. And
that's
so he's
actually,
trying to regrow it back into himself.
I wonder, like, that's also possible, I think. Like, it definitely wouldn't be, it must not be as strong, because otherwise it would have been able to, or maybe doesn't last forever. Maybe it lasts for an amount of time, because clearly he keeps going back for it. Either the graft isn't taking, and so he keeps trying, and that's why he has this gross mess of knots and lumps, and he keeps building on top of it. Or he's using it to make things. But that's also the
Samson thing. Once his hair's cut,
he loses his power. And I mean, ultimately, she's not doing so good. So
Mr. Stark.
Mr. Stark,
Nedward Stark.
Mr. Nedward not doing so good. Also, I think I put here, but didn't address in the moment, the hammer clearly has an enormous blood stains on it. Like, this is allegedly a hammer that only hit the Elden Ring. Why is it fucking drenched in blood all over it? Every single nook and cranny of it is fucking covered in blood splatters. And this little stand that he
anvil thing.
When he yanks it out of it, which by the way, it's embedded into it. So this is not like a guy that's been actively walking with this hammer. This is a hammer that hit that really hard one time and then was left there. Maybe that's what he used to pop her head off. I don't know, because she doesn't have a head on, and the hammer is, again, fucking covered in blood, and so is you can see these, like, cracks and splashes, and you can see that the edges have, like, these blood streaks. But because you see it for just one moment in the game, it's so easy to miss it. But the fucking blood, there's so few items in this game that have blood on them that I haven't been able to reconcile the fact that this is just has it. And when he's holding it as a weapon, it has it. So it's not like you can even justify it as, oh yes, it can the player hit things with it. No. When he's holding it the first time you see him pull it out of the rock, it's covered in blood. It's like, ooh, that's a bit sketchy. Ooh. But, also, just to go back for a second to the trellis thing. I know that we keep all happily calling it a trellis, and it's completely fair. However, when you actually get to the Elden Ring inside of him, maybe I have a better picture here. Let me quickly skim. I think I do. Yes. I think I do. You actually see in 5 or 6 years, this loads. It's not a big picture. Okay. You actually look at it up close inside of him. These are not layered behind it. These are pinned into it. These are a little, it kind of looks like a little tree, actually. It's very cute. It looks like a little Christmas tree, but these are like little, it's almost like little needles pinned through. And a thing that you do in sewing is pinning things together in place while you're working on them. You just pop it in so it stays in place while you're like figuring out
before you weave the thing
together.
together.
And you're like, oh, you put it through the
and he doesn't
machine.
have his needle. You got that somewhere, so
I have his needle in my pocket. He left it with his ex-wife. Forgot.
how's he gonna sew it up? It's all just hold together with
I guess
pins.
maybe he can make a new one. He did this suspiciously. There's 2 items in the game that are like, oh, here's a gift that Radagon made for his son MIQUELLA as a sign of gratitude, and you're never told why he's grateful. But MIQUELLA makes a lot of needles. Mm-hmm. That's his whole thing, is making needles. So maybe that's what it is. I just thought of this now. I'm not really sure. I didn't workshop this one very much, so there might be a contradiction immediately. But, well, he didn't have his needle. His son, really good at making them. Maybe. But, this actually, this looks much more like he's pinning while he's walking on all the shit that he wants to do to this. He also has a weapon that he's made that very similarly, he made it and left it behind in a cave because he took the gift from his ex-wife, remodeled it to look like a cool Golden Order thing, and then just left it behind when he got to join. But you can see there's actually also in it, there's all these like little crosses stabbing through it. So this isn't splinters. The hammer also is covered in them throughout. There's a crack throughout the hammer and it's covered in these little things, and they say, no, it's splinters, it's splinters. That's like a guilty motherfucker trying to explain the crumbs on his face after he ate the cookies out the jar. This is just what he uses to hold the things together while he's walking on them. And this one he never finished walking on, so they're still all there. And the Elden Ring, well, we slightly killed him before he got around to it. So it's all pinned together. But when you actually get to Marika, you can see no, you can't see it in this one. It's okay. I've got it. I think I've got it. Maybe I don't. Apologies in advance if I don't. But no, not a very good one. But when you actually get to her, they're like a faint shadow of he's been here kind of presence, but it's not. They're not really. You know, you can see a slight shadow of them, but the actual ring barely gives a shit that he's been there, which rubs it in a little that he wasn't. He didn't contribute that much, did he? Like, these are all the errors, and my interpretation of it, the big arcs are signaling the end of a period. So they I wish I put it here. I didn't. I wish I put a proper image of the ring in here, but I'm a dum-dum and there was a lot to look at, so I didn't grab it in time. My bad. There's all these arcs throughout it that almost are like when the kids are born or when the husband is changed. And I feel like she may have tried to put a new arc to end the Radagon era. And he was like, fuck you, no you don't. Stabbed it off. And then this all happened. Who knows? But that's obviously, who knows? But that's a weak thing to say. So what I'm going to say is I think I'm totally right. And I think I'm epic. I think that's why she's bald. That explains why she doesn't have hair. Explains what the fuck the spear is about. It covers the two corpses. It covers the hammer being fucking weird. And generally speaking, is fun, and also why this is covered in hair, which again was one singular shot and it was really weird, but it's the first clear shot you get in that trailer. You also see all these little splinters, and so many of them are like deep red. So I'm just saying, I know it's hard to see the first time. You assume it's like, oh, they're heated up, he's a blacksmith, but maybe they're just red because it's his stupid spear that he stabbed his wife with. So in conclusion, his crimes include ruining his ex-wife's life by marrying her, having a beautiful family, and then leaving her the second he had a chance at power. Conceptually, stealing the crown of the previous guy by making a statue with it on. He doesn't have anything on. To be clear, this is, if it's a physical statue, if it's a physical crown, the only person who has it on is Godfrey himself. When he comes back to beat his ass, he has it on. He does
have it. Yeah, you see him covered.
He has it on.
Horalu.
Yes, exactly. So he has it on. You can take it. By the way, weirdly, but now I wonder if there's something to it. When you take that crown, it's the crown and the hair. And I know in the game, as the justification said, well, yes.
White hair too.
He has white hair. He has very light hair.
White hair.
It's at the very least, it's not gold, but it's not obviously completely different. Mm-hmm. The red is so actually, this is like, I'm so stupid. I almost forgot. Key part of it. So the Elden Ring, gold, right? Mm-hmm. But in the past, there's a history that they don't like talking about, because they like to pretend they were the first to ever have happened. But before the Archery, there was a crucible. Stuff, right? Yeah, the crucible is red. Crucible is a forge.
Yeah,
it's unclear. It's unclear what it actually is in the game, because they just say life was blended together in the crucible before the Archery. Right, okay. So you can take it as both a literal, like a primordial soup,
like a LCL.
Yeah, or you can
human
also
instrumentality.
You can also take it as actually you're right.
Yeah.
Or you can take it as a metaphorical, like, different cultures lived together. It can be both. Like probably
New York City or Evangelion.
I think it's a New York City that's a bit gooey.
Or it could be that there was some a literal crucible, and the gods were creating.
Yes, like it because
Life.
it's very much an origin. Not the origin story is not the word. Like there's a word in
Creation.
Yes, it's a creation mythos. So it's very vague, but it's red. Its color, it's just blood red. So the reddish gold is signifying that the color that the religion had at the time of the previous husband was this reddish gold. When he comes along, he's like, I'm going to make it completely gold, exclusively gold, pure, beautiful. And then his son is like, what if this gold was unalloyed, which meaning it's not mixed with like copper, for example, that would make it red. And so he's like, yes, my favorite child, let's eliminate all other races from mixing with ours, essentially. It's very, that's why I don't vibe, I think, with MIQUELLA. It was very like eugenics sounding. And then it makes you think it isn't. Because it goes, no, it's because we want to get rid of the concept that like the gold of the religions. No, I don't believe it, little bitch.
And where does Jawbug fit into all this?
Jawbug, they're just little guys.
They're just guys.
They're just little guys. I think they were built for utility, and then they didn't realize if we put the guts of all these strong warriors, they might be so strong and epic that they gain consciousness. By the way, inside of Alexander is a big
Who did
jaw.
he eat?
He ate Radon.
Yeah, I know.
He
that.
already was alive.
Yeah.
However, what do you find when you defeat Alexander? You find Radon's hair inside of him. I know it's in part, it's because it's too, how else do you identify goo? Well, you could have put a bit of armor in there, I suppose. Yeah. But what's in there is the hair. And I know that one is like the hair is, but hair is a big theme in the game.
Do you know the Greek, what are they called? Like Clotho and...
from Shin Megami Tensei.
The Oracle.
But yes.
Whatever. And they have the loom that is how they make life
and stuff. Right.
The loom of fates.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hair-ish. It's threads that are the threads of life and stuff.
And just the fact that there's so many needles in this game. So many needles. So weaving is a big thing, but also there's such a focus on hair. It's constantly mentioned, hair and hair color and braids, and the fact that then the goddess shows up with a third of her hair on her head was just too weird to not be something.
Professor, I did my homework.
What the heck? He's passing me notes.
I reformatted what you said into a 1, 2, 3, 4 step so that if you wanted to outline it in a way that is
oh my goodness
logical to
okay, I will need a second because I'm really bad at reading while I'm
my
speaking.
handwriting's really bad because I wrote it sideways.
You were sideways and leaning on stuff. But that's so sweet. Thank you, student.
It's
you're my
that
favorite.
much.
That's a gross thing to say, but that's okay. I'm not your teacher. I'm a teacher of Twitch
I'm the
chat.
other teacher.
You're the,
I'm the substitute teacher. I'm like, hey kids, let's watch movies.
You're the one that's like learning from me, so you're sitting into my class, and I'm talking to like 3 like distracted ass.
I basically give you a 4-segment
that's so nice. Thank you.
To put
I
together
appreciate
if you want
it.
to cover all this.
I appreciate it. So yes.
I also put a space here because I don't know how the DLC guy fits into this, but he also has red
me
hair.
neither. I have thoughts about him. I think he's
Messmer.
a spider who's luring people in by being cute,
He's
and then
luring you
them.
to Naraka,
Maybe.
and then you climb the tower, and then you were
Blade
Asura,
Point?
and then you come back to life, and then you're like...
Maybe.
Yeah,
That'd be sick.
Naraka Blade Point is named after that. It's
Oh
like
my
a
God, that makes
Chinese
sense.
Zen
That
thing, a
makes
Buddhism
sense.
thing. Where like the afterlife is there's the spider that tempts you, and then you have to
Ooh.
climb. He just heckles you until you give up. But if you climb to the top of the tower and put in the hard work, then you get to put back in the reincarnation cycle, I think. But there's just a spider that follows you and he's like, give up, you can't get up there,
That's
you idiot.
so funny. What a dickhead. No, I think this one is a cute little spider that's like, hee, I'm so sweet. Like the ones that look like flowers. There's a lot of things that when I looked them up, they looked very Australian. So I think this game is set in Australia. Thank you for listening. But there's a lot of plants that look like,
Australia has very interesting flora.
A lot of like plants and parasite plants that are very Australia / Southeast Asia in this game. But another thing was that there's like flower spiders that just pretend to be
Yeah.
the flower, and then the
Yeah.
bug gets close and they go nyam, 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 nyam. And I think that this is unrelated to this, but MIQUELLA is described constantly as being this beautiful young child, so innocent and sweet, and he just wants to help his sister. His sister, represented by rot, which attracts bugs, and a giant blooming flower
Which
that's
is
a
a
rotting
rafflesia.
flower, which is like a rafflesia. This doesn't look like a rafflesia,
but
but it's
that's-
what the rafflesia
yeah.
is. And butterflies. And what do spiders like to eat? Bugs and butterflies. What do spiders do? Cocoons. There's a constant talk of MIQUELLA putting himself in cocoons to like...
Which he is in like an egg
He
thing.
is, but
Yeah.
it's a spider cocoon.
Yeah, yeah.
The moths use silk, so technically you might think, no, maybe it's a no, moth cocoons and butterfly.
But why would the shiny
chrysalids-
blonde guy be a moth? Because that's nighttime
Yeah,
and dark.
and chrysalids look extremely different. He has a spider cocoons, and then you
Also,
go to his town.
Chrysalid, the only mention is when what's her face, Roderica's talking about her nasty.
That's so true.
grafted boys.
Yeah, the dead grafted boys, which ironically look way more like chrysalids because they're like armless
Yeah.
bodies,
In a bag.
sometimes legless bodies in a bag. So they do actually look like chrysalids. So
Yeah.
this game knows what a chrysalid looks like. They've looked it up. They've made it so that the girls' corpses look like
Which
them.
I didn't understand that.
That's fair. That's
when I
okay.
played the game, I didn't get that until way
It's-
later. Someone pointed out that that's what she was talking about.
That, yeah, I
'cause
understand. I understand.
She
It's a
just
weird...
started talking about becoming chrysalids.
She tells you so
Yeah.
much earlier than you even have a chance to see the corpses that it's so hard to put
And then she
together.
just gives you a jellyfish, and you're like, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
a lot to take in. Yeah, but
And then she's gone and never talks about it again. She's just in the round table.
she
And she's like, I
starts-
lost everyone.
She starts
Oh, well.
talking to spirits, so she learns how to talk to spirits and goes
Yeah.
back, has a chat with them, leaves her old hoodie behind because she's like, okay,
But
I've
I
grown
didn't
up.
get any of that
You
because I
didn't
did
get any of that
something
because
too quick. And
if
then,
you accidentally skip that from triggering, because if you just play through the dungeon, you miss it.
And then when I went
You'll
back,
never
that
get it.
item's there, but she never mentions
It is
anything
one
about
of
it,
those
so.
things where like it doesn't matter,
That's
so
just
it's
the
a little
danger
treat.
of an open world
But
game.
yeah, but because it's so front loaded and you do inevitably talk to her, it feels so weird
Mhm.
to miss it. But yeah, he talks about chrysalids, so they know what chrysalids look like. And MIQUELLA, it's a spider cocoon. And then you go to his town and it's covered in cocoons that are the shape of these guys. So he's inviting these little guys,
the
the
Halic
Albinorics.
tree,
Yes,
right,
he's
yeah.
inviting them over to say, this is a haven for you guys. And then you go there, there's none of them alive, but there's a lot of cocoons that are shaped exactly like them.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this is not, guys, it's not good. Spiders don't do that for nice. Spiders do that for like, ooh, a snack for later.
And it is also, they look the same as the thing that he is in. When
Yeah.
took him away
Well,
to the
allegedly, because you then find out, actually, MIQUELLA's in the dream world or whatever. The cocoon isn't even him,
I
right?
thought it is him. but
Well-
it's his body. But then
well,
it's like spirit.
That's
is
what it's
there.
positing.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking,
I
maybe
guess
it isn't. Maybe he just let
That
Moog
also could
believe
be a
that.
genuine chrysalid situation because there's the whole thing of
Well,
like,
it-
caterpillars are just like this liquid in there. And
Yeah,
they're not
it
exactly
could be,
themselves.
but absolutely does look like a spider.
There's a
like,
hand poking out. Also,
There's a hand
so
poking. There's a body in there.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Maybe it's Messmer.
I actually
He's
just
really
think
skinny
like,
and bony.
but
Maybe
he
it's
is really
Messmer's
skinny and
hand.
bony. That's true. He is skinny and bony. But I'm like,
Put that in for if it happens. You
okay,
owe me money.
happens. He called it. That's Messmer's corpse, and
And
we're just-
MIQUELLA is the Messmer that's in the DLC. MIQUELLA is posed
Intriguing.
as Messmer
Okay.
and luring you into the corpse of
I feel like
Messmer.
someone must have said some shit like, because I feel like everyone's like, this character is this character.
This stuff I said doesn't mean anything, but if it's true, imagine.
Imagine. But that's why it will be funny. That's why it's funny to say it. That's why I love having you here to just say shit, because like I want it to be true. Because as opposed to like everyone who spent 40 hours thinking about it, I'm just trying to avoid
I just
life,
say
which is why
stuff,
I'm obsessing.
And sometimes
but
it makes sense.
yeah, I think Messmer is just a guy. He may have relations to the story, but I think he's his own guy and he's just some dickhead that I want to beat up because I don't like him. Hate him so much. What an unpleasant little preview of a man. He does say mother in a very Buster tone.
I'm going to army, mother.
Yes.
That's the other one.
And he's like, why wouldst thou, lordship, sanction in one so bereft of light? And everyone's like, mother, he's talking about Marika. And I'm like, it's just going to be some fucko. And you're going to have met his mom. 10 minutes before.
And it's Kenneth Haight.
He is mommy, as the kids say.
He's like, oh, my castle is
he does,
overrun.
He does speak equally annoyingly, but I feel like it does feel like a... I mean, there is characters that have, like, Raya, the girl that's a snake.
Is adopted.
She is adopted, but she constantly says Tanith is her mother because she is her adoptive mother, not birth mother, but it doesn't matter, right? So I'm like, it doesn't have to be
There's also
birth
like no
mother.
children in the game because like is
There's-
time being busted? Does it mean you can't have
No
children?
one is like the cycle of life
Because there's only
seems to.
adopted children.
It's weird, and I think it's something to do with this. I think something about
Is it the stars thing?
No. I think it's a religion thing. I think it's a you can't have sex thing.
Wow, the
There's-
land between
it's
really
not-
sucks then.
It's not clear. It's not clear. This one is a big mystery.
Okay.
One of the solutions that people have proposed is that the tree gives birth to people, and I'm like, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but
Or people were created from the forge, and then you
maybe
light
the
the forge again so
demi-humans.
that life can come
Yeah,
back.
the demi-humans, Bok, right? They're born of a mother.
Bach, he does have a mom. He talks.
He does have
about
a
it.
mom. So all the creatures, and Raya is born of a blasphemous ritual,
Right, God.
which is, a
Balls.
snake.
Sex is
Birthing.
the blasphemous
Maybe.
ritual, I guess.
What I'm positing is birth is like blasphemous. Birth that is not approved by the religion, by the dominating religion, which is the Earth Tree. I think they will allow, in whatever method, birth to happen, but they like it controlled. And if it's outside of their domain, then they're like, this is illegal and you're evil, fuck you. So I think there's something to that. So there is children, but it's all the ones that were already around. There's no new ones in the religion. Because new ones are evil and bad. So,
Okay.
the conclusion...
So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
Conclusion is that Radagon is a dickhead. Stupid ass. Got turned into a shitty looking sword. And I'm glad of it. Deserves it.
The sword?
Yes, the Elden Beast shoves him into the ground and then pulls out a sword that you can see is like a little human T-posing. It's like the skeleton of a little human T-posing, and then out of where his head would be,
That's funny.
there's like a helix of bones coming out. I wish I put an image here. I didn't. It's yes.
Okay. I believe
And
you.
the description of the sword said that it's been wrought from the body of a god who should have lived a life immortal, because obviously he tried to, but failed to.
He was about to, but then
Was
failed,
about
so
to,
he
well,
should have because
he
he was on the path.
Might not have. He should have, like, it's almost if it's said by him wistfully,
Right.
like, oh, I earned this, I deserve this, but he almost feels
That
like
does
he was
raise
on
the
his
question
last
of
legs.
Who gives you these descriptions, like the Pokédex thing?
Yeah.
Of like, is a kid just making
It
shit up?
feels very, it feels very like, it's not necessarily a singular entity, but whatever voice it is, it's a very biased one.
Mm-hmm.
Every item that belongs to the demi-humans is like,
They're
this
nasty,
is
stinky
this is
guys.
fucking garbage,
Yeah.
not even worth using or looking at, smells bad, and
Yeah.
they're so stupid. Like every single one is like, oh, this was given to them, and they think it's because they're so epic, but they're wrong. And like, but Radagon is so cool, and we love him. Oh my god, I want to kiss him. So I'm like, it's not necessarily Radagon, but it's like the vibe of someone who really likes
Divide.
the Golden Order and thinks everyone else is stinky, and is constantly being like, wow, this item is so suspicious. Maybe it's Marika's. She's so sketchy, right, guys? Right? And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, lay it on a bit thicker, will you? So,
Well, they will.
they will. They did. And everyone, I feel insane. I feel crazy because everyone that talks about this game is like, yes, the religion is right. And actually, I think that the only way to fix this religion is to take the human element out and just be fundamentalists. And it's unironically constantly saying the fundamentalism is good. And I'm like, are you hearing? I know you're talking about video game, but it's the exact same words as real life. Are you realizing what you're saying here? The religion that's like, beasts should be killed, and beasts are just like shown to be just as able to speak and interact with humans as humans, but they're like, well, but they were born from filth, so sorry, we don't like them. we can enslave them, maybe. And like, can't say that's okay. you can't say that's okay. I know it's a video game, but come on, it's not okay in the game. It's bad. So I've been feeling a bit crazy. So this might make me crazier to be like, actually, the power is in the head. Thing that no one has ever said. This is all brand new bullshit. I know that the audience of this is not Elden Ring audience. Probably checked out. Completely fair. I'm almost done. It's okay. But like this shit about the crown, not brand new info that I'm bringing to the table, but that no one wants to hear because everyone's like, yeah, they told me this bitch is evil. So I've heard
Yeah, that is crazy.
The insults that I have heard people throw at this woman are like shocking. Everyone's so delighted that they have an excuse to be like the most violently sexist that they can. So I you know, epic. Love it. So I'm a bit alone in this camp of like, actually the guy that beats the shit out of you at the end might be the bad guy. Controversial takes.
And I'm the progenitor of the controversial Elden Ring is upside down
Yes.
theory.
The other ring is upside down. I mean, hey,
The Mr. Squiggle theory, as I call it.
I liked it.
Mr. Squiggle draws upside down because it's a marionette and the guy's hanging upside down above it to draw.
Is that from Art Attack or something?
No, it's from Mr. Squiggle. It's an Australian show.
Mr. Squiggle is
So
so-
it's a guy and his nose is a pencil, and it's like a marionette. So the guy is up in the like a rig in the rafters. So he's drawing from his point of view the right way up.
Oh.
But the joke being that Mr. Squiggle's a freak from the moon and draws everything upside down.
Whoa.
And then the
ring is
lady
a
has to
freak
flip
from
it
the
over
moon.
to see that it's what it
Freak.
is. The
Hell
way that
yeah.
they show it was kind of cool because kids,
Hell yeah.
you send in just like some lines on a page
Mhm.
that's like not a picture, it's just some random scribbles. And then he would
Oh, that's
draw
so
something
cute.
around it.
Yeah, there's a YouTube series where dad does that with his kids. Oh, it's very cute. I
Yeah,
can't
but
remember
this
his
is
name,
just
I feel
like
so
you
bad.
have to just take a page and do like 2 lines and
Yeah.
then send that.
We should do that if I ever can draw again. It's been like 2 years.
You can
It'll
look at
come
my
back to
drawing
me
right
someday.
there.
Yeah, you do have like imagine like a hyper realistic render of that.
If you can do it in an
I
MS Paint.
I can't do anything right now. I haven't put the handwriting here is the most I've drawn in like a long time.
Yeah.
But great arrows. Look at them. They're so well, not this one, but it's fine. Most
It's
of
okay,
them
you
are
can
good.
just draw crab the coolest and everyone will cheer.
Crabs are the hardest thing to
No, look at mine. It was easy.
That's fair. That's fair. Oh,
He has purple shoes
I
now.
did just remember. There's a singular spider in this game. And it's the little gross guy that's on top of, remember Cemetery Shades? It's those like
Oh, yeah, they
shadowy
have the
guys.
bug on their head.
Yeah, they kind of look like the shadowy arm that he's got going. But anyway, that's not necessarily them saying anything. I don't know. But
It's just like a ghost.
they
shorthand in
it's like a little, yeah. You can see that they've got all the little silk threads to like marionette these guys.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Like the hammer.
and like, yeah, and like ultimately they're just taking over a body from the top of the head. So they're like replacing the hair.
I will say that Asura's
Hmm?
Wrath also ends with you fighting a quote unquote god that's like a hollow body like that.
Oh, yeah.
Asura's Wrath has a lot of similar, like a lot
Yeah.
of this is very similar to the Hindu.
And there's like a lot of
and-
puppets in this game and
Yeah.
controlling bodies and empty vessels and things like that, and things controlling other things. One person being 2 people in different ways. So
I hate to be predictable, but every time we talk about anything, I can only bring it back to Dune, Asura's Wrath.
Dune is a new fun
or
addition. The
Incredibles.
Incredibles, yeah. Sometimes it's The Simpsons, and I can't contribute.
Well, that's
anything.
only jokes. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's never anything
But
important.
yeah, but they're all kind of. I mean, this has elements of Buddhism for sure.
Yeah,
There's
There's some of it. It's
what's
obvious.
it called? The fundamentalism has the causality, which is basically just karma. The 2 tenets of it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other one, regression, and I don't really understand the regression one.
What's the word for the reincarnate? Is Brahmastra the reincarnation cycle? There's some word like
Somewhat, but like the causality is just karma. So there is some of that. I mean, ultimately,
that. The Brahmastra is the big gun in
Yeah.
Asura's Wrath that like nuke
right? But
satellites,
ultimately, it's just the religion part. It's if every god is real, no god is real, because if there's a singular god, then it's okay. Yeah, you're the most powerful. But if there's like 20, then nothing means anything. Like they're
that's
all
just a species. At
yeah,
that point,
there's just some dudes and
yeah.
they're like wrestling for control, and it's just some bigger guys than me doing the same things that I do, which is try to like
it's kind of like
assert some
X-Men,
independence or whatever.
where it's like they're the next step of evolution,
Right.
And they're persecuted, but they're like this elevated species basically, but like they are god level power, some of them, but they're still people in the world, in a society.
And in this case, they're just trying to colonize the planet and be the one that colonizes, and they're all fighting each other and sending their people, they're convincing people to side with them and then sending them off to fight for them. It's not, if every god is real, then nothing is a god. Everything is just a faction that you're following. And so this is a faction, and the rot god is a faction. And the rot one is kind of interesting because they've been like, even the person that's the impersonation of it has been like, I don't want these fucking bugs, gross. And she just leaves them behind, and they're like crying in the swamp because their god has been reborn and doesn't want them.
She's just in the goo.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, maybe could there be some room to interpret that maybe she's not the god? Also, the fact that I think MIQUELLA is a spider, and he's so attached to, he keeps saying he wants to cure his sister, then takes no steps to curing her. He gives her a needle that stops it temporarily, but the second she takes it out, it just bursts out. So I'm like, okay, are you just, well...
Or was that like a weaponized thing? Like she knew that when taking it out would do that?
Must have, because in the cutscene you see her stabbing herself with her own sword.
Right, okay.
So it's like either the...
It's the goodbye, Mr. Tien.
Yes, she does whisper something to Radon, and maybe it is goodbye, Mr. Tien, but basically, she does explode herself purposefully. So I'm like, and then she does it when she fights you, because she's like, okay, I've been defeated, next step, power up. So she can do it still, and maybe it's been left as like a nuclear button, but like,
it's like a lost
the guy
resort.
that does the spider things, keeping his bug sister around that attracts bugs, I don't know, man. There's something to that. Even just the imagery.
We'll find out in the DLC.
We'll find out in the
maybe.
DLC when it comes out in June that I can't afford. This money is not gonna get used for that because it will probably just
This
cover
money
the
is
next.
for bills
Wait,
and
it
stuff.
is enough for the power bill. Yes. We're not gonna have no power. That's so sick. I love
It's
you
enough
guys.
for some power and a little bit of food. And
A little
some
bit of food. That's
whatever else.
so nice. I love my friends in the chat.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. I can stop yapping. I'm sorry. I could go on forever because, again, I'm trying to avoid
Hello,
my
we are
problems.
both unemployed.
Yes, I am so sad. And there's only so many jobs you can apply to, and they all say no, or they don't say anything. So sometimes you just gotta be like, I want to think about something that isn't this.
Or you just go live for 3 days.
Yeah, and while you do that, I'm like, I'm gonna go take some screenshots and Elden Ring.
Okay, this is for you now.
Thank you. I can't reach it, but I'll grab it on my way out. Oh, goodness me. I need to unentangle myself. But thanks for having me. Love
No problem.
talking.
It's time for Pocket Bomberman.
Sick.
And then
I'm not going to touch anything.
Pokemon.
You can
Yeah, that's fine.
undo all this. But yeah. Bye. Mwah.